The Obama years. There could be no sharper contrast between the great euphoria between the time when Barack Obama started his presidency and the present-day embitterment from all sides. When Obama became president, he had it easy, as few presidents before, at least since World War II. Bush Jr. was far and wide hated, and the vast majority was glad Bush's presidency was over. From that point on, Obama had much upfront support. Given how deep his esteem fell, one might wonder how all this happened. The reality is that Barack Obama did not succeed in any internal or foreign political field. His plan to develop a social security system as it is established in Europe for over 100 years failed, and agitated both Democrats and Republicans, leaving him between two chairs. It is significant for the entire domestic politics of Obama and a sign of how the US has changed in the last 15 years. From a European perspective, the strong aggression between the two political parties are something stunning. In Europe, people are generally more expecting a sort of cooperation, or at least civility. But ever since the end of the Reagan era, it seems that followers of the Republican and Democrat parties are vividly hating each other with a zeal that seems both frightening and weird to European eyes. In domestic politics, the United States are essentially paralyzed since the end of the Reagan presidency. Reagan was the last president who really made some fundamental changes in internal and economic politics. Ever since, there was hardly any profound change, with one strange exception: security and surveillance politics. Since the 9/11 events, the USA has transformed into a nation which eerily reminds me of the socialist Germany, the GDR. Looking at any documentary about US border control, the fence to Mexico, but also the stern controls in each airport, remind me a lot of the transit control of the inner German border of socialist Germany. A nation at constant fear, transforming itself into a huge stronghold. The mentality changed likewise. A once optimistic, communicative nation now eyes everyone with such suspicion that even long-time allies like Germany are spied on, up to the Chancellor itself. For the US today, every outsider seems to have become a potential enemy. It is an alarming sign of the time that a TV series like House of Cards is so successful and widely regarded as a relatively accurate depiction of US politics. The rift between Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals is deep. One of the problems is that the basic cornerstones of the political system of the United States stems back to the 18th century, and the strong national traditionalism is fiercely opposing any sort of change of these cornerstones, which most Americans regard like God-given commandments. But ideas like gun control, which may have been appropriate in the 18th and 19th century, simply fail to reflect the reality of the 21st century. Especially the entire two-party system and the electoral system, the rift between the president and parliament, are political systems which do not well in the diverse realities of today. Where European countries have often 4 or even 5 parties in their parliaments, the lock-up of a mere 2 parties forces these political parties to cover a huge spectrum of ideas. The result is that both parties are now in a constant stalemate where nobody dares to step back one bit in a fear to alienate a few percent of their supporters. Democrats and Republicans each have to cover so many different views and agendas, they simply became immobile giants like dinosaurs. A more modern parliamentarian system would allow several parties to cover political ideas more precise and create a more compromise-accentuated political climate, simply because with several political parties one cannot dominate the debate, where the other party now just tries to block as much as possible. 2 parties may have reflected the social realities of the 19th and 20th century, but for the new century the system is just entirely inept. And Obama has made nothing of the vast authority given to his office, despite the claim of Republicans that he overused executive orders. The reality is that Bush Jr. issued much more of these. The economic reality is that never before were so many Americans dependent on food stamps and social support. The gap between rich and poor is accelerating, getting wider. None of the liberal prestige ideas were realized, like national gay marriage or the closing of Guantanamo Bay. None of the surveillance measures like NDAA, NSA and the like were reduced. On the contrary, under the Obama administration, the control of the American people is tighter than it was ever before. The United States is constantly plastered with new private prisons, something unthinkable in most European states, where private companies are guaranteed a utilization of 90% and created a huge lobby which constantly pushes for harsher laws and harsher judges to maximize their profit from private prison camps. Such developments continue to cripple the libertarian roots of the American society under the Obama administration. The results of the foreign politics of Obama are even worse. The NSA spying affair deeply alienated Germany, one of the influential powers of the EU. The leaked conversation of Poland proved that the once cooperating East Europeans are deeply frustrated with the United States. The situation of the Ukraine has created a new Cold War between US and Russia, and the entire Middle East is literally in flames. Of course, Obama inherited a difficult situation from Bush Jr., who had vaporized all US foreign interests during two invasions, Afghanistan and Iraq, both which cost a fortune, killed many people and led to virtually no result. The Taliban were not defeated at all, the spread of Islamism wasn't prevented but actually fanned, the removal of Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi plunged Iraq and Libya into anarchy. Egypt is essentially back to military control. Israel and Palestine face the most gruesome war for over a decade, and the entire northwest of Africa falls like a series of dominoes into chaos. After the military adventures of the Bush era, the vast majority of the US population simply wanted to get out of the region and preferred a focus on domestic issues. But as it is so often the case, if you turn a blind eye to the world, it may stand at your doorstep someday. Now a foreign passive Obama administration faces the chaos in the world without any plan or will to go back to the unloved role of world policeman. But power does not allow vacuum. When one power retreats, other powers fill the gap. That is the harsh reality which all isolationists in the West must face. Obama tried to refocus the US politics towards domestic affairs, but unfortunately he failed there to really reach a single goal, and while turning his back to international affairs, the world is set aflame everywhere. The wishy-washy internal politics left both liberals and conservatives alienated, the first thinking Obama's politics didn't go far enough, the latter certain that Obama already went too far. In terms of foreign policy, it may well be that the end of the Obama presidency will be judged as the entrance towards a new dark era of conflict and war.